And we are streaming live now. Just looks like 5 seconds. It's thinking, it's pausing. All right, and we are live. Welcome everybody to your Mighty Mystery interview. I'm your host, Sara DiVello, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Katie Tallo, author of Dark August, out today. Katie, welcome to A Mighty Blaze. Tell us about your book.
Thank you. There it is.
Okay, there it is, looking so gorgeous.
Well, I'll give you a little rundown of Dark August. Augusta Monet is my lead character, and she's this 20-year-old, and she's a little bit lost in life. She was orphaned at 8, and she's living this sort of aimless existence. And she gets this call that her great-grandmother has died. And so she inherits her house, ditches her loser boyfriend, and heads back to her hometown. I love hometown stories, returning to a hometown. They're always so personal, So she finds this really rundown house and a really rundown old dog named Levi and a mystery in a trunk. And in that trunk, it's her old childhood trunk, but her mother has hidden. Her mother died. She was a police officer, died in a car accident. Oh. But her mother was obsessed with this case. And these files are tucked away in this trunk. And Augusta remembers this evidence wall her mother had these files and photographs and articles up on. And so she recreates this evidence wall from memory. And that leads her to start as very amateur sleuthing into the cold case, but also kind of uncovers things she didn't know about her mother's death and stirs up some things that some pretty nasty people don't want stirred up. So,
oh my God, that's so exciting. I am so here for all of that. The rundown house, the return to the hometown, the secret trunk. I mean, my heart is just aflutter at the idea of a secret trunk. I want to be there. I want to open the trunk. I want to see what's in there. The evidence wall, the unsolved case. Oh my God, it's all so tantalizing. I can't wait to read it.
I want to creep around a house and look into the attic and the basement and find stuff. Have you ever gone to like an estate sort of sale and seen a house where everything is still as it was? And it's kind of like, I've been to a couple of these, and it's really interesting because the artifacts and the little pieces of people's lives are still there, and it's photographs and all of that stuff is so fascinating. So she kind of is just there in her great grandmother's house, and she remembers it. So her memories start to intertwine with this cold case because it's all when she was 8. So when she was 8, some pretty traumatic things happened, and she's got vivid memories, but she's also got blank spots. And those blank spots become pretty important because they're based in a trauma that she witnessed. So that slowly gets uncovered as well.
That slowly gets uncovered. Oh my gosh. And I just want to welcome our audience. I see Diane is saying hi. Hi, Diane. She says, congratulations on the book. You're a new author to me. She says, the plot sounds great. Yay, Diane. I think you're speaking for all of us. Welcome. And I just want to welcome everyone. Feel free to say hi, tell us where you're from, and ask Katie questions. This is your chance to ask the author anything you want about mystery, writing, genre, thriller, craft, her plot. Tell us what your questions are, and I will get them right to Katie. So we're here for you, our Mighty Blaze, Mighty Mystery audience. This is your chance. Have at it. My partner in crime, Jenna Blum, is manning the Facebook, and she says anyone who loves Nancy Drews loves a secret trunk. Word.
Yep.
I love Nancy Drews. So Katie, tell us about your research process. You referenced going to estate sales. Were you thinking about, looking around and taking in information? Walk us through your research process.
Well, I mean, that was just sort of the visual context that I was giving for that old house, but I didn't necessarily do that for the novel, but my research process is really grounded in my life, in my world. And so, I don't know if you'd call it so much research. A lot of research is done online and with books and that sort of thing. If I'm really looking into a technical aspect of, like a will or how somebody would leave someone a money order that needs to last for years, and like banking stuff, which I had to look up, and talk to my banker friends and whatever. But really my research, I feel like it's grounded in my life. I walk around my neighborhood and I see, you know, the house that I envisioned is actually just around the corner from me. It's a real house. It was so creepy and run down and overgrown. And there was just something about this house. I would walk by with my dog, Levi, who's now a character in the book. And I would sort of see this house. Now, it's since been fixed up, which is a real shame in a way. I mean, lovely that they fixed it up, but it was sort of my neighborhood streets, my you know, walks through this place that grounded it in the sense of place, because I really love and also the areas around my city. I live in Ottawa and in Canada, so I would drive the highways and go out to Elgin, which is a real town that I actually blow off the face of the earth in the book, but you know, it's still there. So I didn't actually hurt anybody there. But I love to go to these, I love small town stories too. I have a real passion for that. And I just like to kind of do my research by looking. And I guess it comes from my filmmaking background, but I like to see it as a movie playing out in my head and see scenes. And, you know, she does a lot of driving in the country and I just can see it more than I can almost describe it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that answers your research question, but.
That makes so much sense. And actually it's perfect because we have a question from the audience. Diane says, how many books have you written? And that actually, it leads us into what I want to talk about next. So Katie, this is your first book, right?
It is sort of. It's my it's my publishing debut. So that, yeah, that's wonderful. I wrote a manuscript for another novel, probably about 2013. And I won a contest in the UK for unpublished female writers called the Dyslexia Women's Novel Competition. And that was really the beginning of my journey into writing novels. I had written some screenplays and scripts as a director and writer in film, but as in terms of sinking my teeth into a longer project, that first manuscript was something that I just decided to kind of do without any structure. And I had, you know, novels or screenplays can be very structured and have a sort of set audience you're targeting it towards, whereas I just wanted to kind of write a little more freely. And so I was reading Stephen King's book on writing, and he mentions throw your characters in a situation and just go, you know? So I put this car crash in place, a guy in the front seat, a girl in the trunk, and I just started a story. And he starts talking and she starts talking, and it's their history, why they're there, what has happened, how are they going to get out of this, that sort of thing. So that became a story, a manuscript that won that contest, which then got me a wonderful agent, and we couldn't get it published. It was a bit of a strange, you know, I was free with it. So it was a bit of a, it was quite different, maybe too different. And so then I just thought, well, I don't want to self-publish it because that will mean a lot of time spent marketing, spent not writing. And so I wanted to just, it kind of just validated for me, okay, I think I can do this. So why don't I try another one? And my daughter loves mysteries, and I wanted to write her a mystery. And she's my first reader. She's who I write for ultimately. And so I just decided to write a really twisty-turny mother-daughter story for her that has a lot of heart and emotion and our dog in it and all of that stuff. But also that, you know, I've always made sort of films and told stories that always had a bit of sweet and a bit of dark in them. I have a bit of a dark side when I write, only when I write. So
I see the Buddha behind you, so it's probably only when you write.
Trying to keep grounded today. But yeah, Dark August kind of is my first novel. That's a long way of saying, yes, it's my first novel.
So it's your first novel, but you have spent your career in film, writing screenplays, directing films in every aspect of the film industry. So that is so fascinating, both that you have had this career as a woman in film, and now that you have segued into the world of novels and mysteries. Welcome. We're so happy to have you. That was such a great question. Thank you so much. We have another question from the audience. Actually, Rena says, "Hi, ladies. How did you get into writing, Katie?"
How did I get into writing? I've always been a kid who was a storyteller. I just was always telling stories in my head. I was going to be an actress. And I would always make my friends and I do plays. And I was always the storyteller, but not quite so much the writer. But I always had stories going on in my head. I guess a lot of kids do, but my friends will tell you that I was a director from day one. I was the boss. But I think it just led, I really loved visuals. I loved movies, and I got a degree in film and English and read a lot of amazing books and got inspired by Margaret Atwood and Carol Shields and a lot of great Canadian writers and Southern American writers. I love Carson McCullers and James Lee Burke. And so all of that kind of led me to also get a degree in TV broadcasting, where we actually got our hands on cameras, because I was doing a lot of studying films. But once I started sort of getting to edit and tell stories on the screen, we started making short films. And I just kind of became a writer by virtue of wanting to make films. Because as a director, you kind of want to tell your own stories. And so you start writing your scripts. And I got invited to the Banff Women in the Director's Chair, which is a wonderful workshop that empowers, mid-career directors who are female to try and give them a leg up in the industry, because not a lot of women direct. And so, well, actually, that's not true. A lot of women direct, but the percentage that get the jobs is low.
Yes.
Anyway, so I wrote because of filmmaking, and then had always kind of written, and I wrote several screenplays. A couple got made into films, but one that did not is called Gracie's Kiss. And Gracie is a character in that screenplay who ended up in this novel, Dark August. And she always stuck around. And it was 24 years ago that I wrote that screenplay. And her character she's a really strange character, a very isolated character. She makes little taxidermy friends out of roadkill she finds. She's quite macabre, and she lives in this abandoned house. Anyway, she's a lot, but I still loved her as a character and who she was. But I knew I couldn't ground an entire novel in her. So that's where Augusta Manet came along, and I created her, and she drives the story, and Gracie's still a part of it.
Oh, I love that. I love that she hung around and that you managed to work her in from your film career and segueing her now into a novel. Rena says, "Thank you for answering your questions." Of course, Rena, we are here for you and for all of our Mighty Mystery friends who are watching. This is your time, so please ask Katie all the questions you have. We love chatting with you, so any questions you have at all, please ask. So Katie, even though this is your first book, it's already winning acclaim. So I have to share at least some praise. Lisa Gabriel says, "Dark August is a tightly paced cauldron of a thriller about small town corruption, murder, and mayhem in the vein of Sharp Objects and All the Missing Girls. A macabre and confidently twisty debut." Okay, I love that she used the word cauldron. Fantastic.
I love that she referenced Sharp Objects. One of totally. I mean, that's high praise.
So the house that you based it on, did you get a picture of it before they renovated it? No. Oh, that would have been so cool.
And I also didn't kind of purposefully too, because it isn't quite, my imagination took it quite a bit further, and it just felt, I felt like there was someone living there, because I would always see a little light up in the window, and I felt like it was maybe somebody elderly, and I just didn't want to take a picture of their house without sort of intruding on their privacy.
I thought you were about to say a ghost, but I'm relieved it was a living person. So Katie, how long did it take?
I think it was.
I mean, we don't know. It could be. How long did it take you to write this book, start to finish?
I would say, I'm sorry, my phone is just kind of, sorry. Start to finish, I would say 4 years. But I'm a bit of, I write in kind of bursts. I'm not a daily writer necessarily. I kind of have momentum where I get a little obsessed, and I kind of have a groove. And I also have another job, and, I mean, it's just, there's a lot in life. But
Yeah.
I find that for me, I get very absorbed in my story. And so I kind of can't put it down. And if I've started writing in the morning, I might write for 3 hours. Mornings are always the best. And then I kind of, it's there and it's churning around, and I go back and I run over to the laptop and I do some more writing. And then in the evening, I'm like, and then maybe in the middle of the night, oh, some notes come to me. So that'll go on for a couple of weeks, but that isn't sustainable really. And so I like to take breaks and do a lot of walking and let it ruminate a little bit, and then kind of leave it, because then other things come. And then as soon as the little, I don't know why it happens, but sort of little ideas start coming to me, and the character, and I'll be writing more little notes, and I'll realize, okay, it's time to go back and dive in again deeply. It's kind of all or nothing for me in some ways, but I mean, I think a consistent writing practice is really good too, though, because sometimes just waiting for that inspiration, it actually comes when you sit down and you write. So it's tricky. I struggle with it. I think a lot of writers struggle with it. I feel guilty if I'm not writing, but I feel, a little obsessive when I am, and it's kind of a mix of things.
Exactly. It is that mix, and you describe it so well. We have another question from the audience. Diane says, are you writing another? Can you tell us about what you're working on now?
I am. I'm actually writing a sequel to Dark August.
Yay!
Same character, and it's a couple of years later, and she's actually befriended an elderly woman who, when a body is found in the building next door to where they live, that elderly woman, who's her friend, thinks she knows who it might be. And it's her long lost love from decades ago, who she believes it is. And she wants Augusta to investigate for her. Now, Augusta's not a professional detective or anything. She's just a young woman, and she's still meandering a little bit in life, and she has a tendency to hibernate a lot. It actually is something that I've been thinking a lot about in these times too, because we're so, we have been isolated, a lot of us. And
yes.
I feel like that is what I explore a lot in Dark August, is this person who's on the fringes a little bit, out looking at life going by her. But anyway, that the sequel is in the works. It's not fully, but she is going to dive into a new mystery that isn't fully her own, but she's going to help someone else discover theirs, uncover theirs. And in the interim, of course, she riles up a few people, and the danger continues.
And the danger continues. We can't wait. We're getting thumbs up from the audience. Rena says thumbs up. Diane says, it's so great hearing how you write. I also felt like it was great. Diane, thanks for saying that. I also felt like it was great because it's comforting to know that, there's not one certain way to do it. And, that some of us
I don't think so.
First. And so I agree.
I agree with you completely. Yeah.
Diane
and
says
I think that's really important. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's a super good point. That's a really interesting point that I like to hear other people's process too. And I read this book, Daily Rituals of Women Artists. And that book is so amazing. And it covers the centuries, and it covers artists who are sculptors, painters, all their photographers, writers. And it talks about their daily rituals, their daily life, the way they approach their art. And some are super obsessive, and some are, have a regime that is so strict every day. It's the same. And reading that, you feel like it almost gives you permission to find your own rhythm and your own ebb and flow with your art, and what will work for you. And for some people, that means getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and being in that cool headspace when nobody's awake. And for me, it's sometimes I experience that early in the morning. If the sun's not up yet, that's a really interesting time to write.
Yeah.
Things are quiet.
Exactly. And I think it is so fascinating and so comforting to hear different processes for the exact same reason that you just said, because it lets us know how other people write and gives us permission to find our own. And it's crazy that you mentioned that book, because my writer BFF, Amy Scher, just sent it to me on Friday. She said, she texted me and she said, I'm sending you a gift. I'm not telling you what it is. And I got it on Friday, and I've been reading it all weekend. And it's so fascinating because some people are so regimented, as you said, rise, you know, and they do the exact same thing every day, walk the same path, do this. I mean, it's amazing.
I use that book when I read it, I used it as a morning journaling tool. So I would read about one artist, and then I would reflect on what I could draw from her experience that would apply to mine and what didn't. And it was really an interesting journey, because by the end I had these notes that kind of helped me find my own rhythm.
Yes, exactly. And as you've shared, you are a morning person. You were up at 4 a.m. this morning and witnessed a beautiful red sunrise.
I did. It was red. It was so cool.
For your book. Rena would like to know, has your writing process been affected by the pandemic, and how?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes. I was quite stressed, as many people were. I'm not saying I had it any worse than anybody else. In fact, I probably had it quite good. But the stress of the information coming at you. And I think that led me to, I suffer from migraines, unfortunately. So I had a few of those, and they tend to knock me out for a few days and kind of leave me a bit foggy. That affected my writing. But aside from that, I was kind of distracted. And so it didn't seem important to be writing, but then I got into a flow. That was only for a few weeks. And then I realized that writing can be a good way to get back to yourself and explore whatever's going on in your mind, and de-stress and all of those things. So I managed to get into a bit of a rhythm. I wouldn't say it was the best. I wish I had been one of those people. I think there's so many people who like got in shape and rocked it, and just the last few months have been so amazing, and they've written pages and pages, which is great, you know, but it wasn't me.
I think that's an urban legend. I think that's a social media myth. I think those people are currently eating a bag of Cheetos and watching reruns of Friends.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself anyway. Katie, tell us about the title and the cover. Was the title, did you know it from the moment you were writing this book that it had to be Dark August? Is this number 101? Did any titles land on the cutting room floor that you kind of feel regretful about? Tell us the story of the title and the cover.
Well, it was always Gracie's Kiss, which was the screenplay from 24 years ago. But I have a thing about titles, which is not probably a good thing, but I get very attached to them. And it grounds me in the project. I know what the project is. I was that way with films. That's what it is. And I start to see it, and I start to even create little pretty fonts with it. And, you know, and I put up on my bulletin board, which is where I have all my notes, you know, Gracie's Kiss. So that was just the title that the screenplay was. It related to a kiss of death in the story, and it was sort of interesting. But as we move through the process with a publisher and an editor, the Gracie's Kiss felt a bit too much like a romance, and it didn't say thriller. And as the story evolved, it became a little more dark, and I think it just felt natural. And we tried a few titles. I can't even remember what some of them were, but one of the earliest that we try to, you know, I needed something that would replace it and be better than Gracie's Kiss. And then I thought of Dark August and proposed that to everybody, and everybody ruminated on it and then started to love it. And then we all just kind of gathered around it and thought, this is because much of the action happens in August, very dark time in her life. Her name is Augusta. There's even that little hint in there. I'm born in August. There's just so much that connects me to that title that now it's the title for me. Gracie's Kiss seems like the old screenplay. Doesn't seem like this novel in any way, but Gracie's still around. And the cover was designed by HarperCollins, and they're designers, and they're amazing. And this was actually the cover they showed me, and I went, yeah, that's amazing. There was a slight tweak I made to it, which was the water tower that you can see right there.
Yeah.
And it was a little house, I think, that they had there. And I felt like a water tower is like a sentinel outside a ghost town. And and she approaches the town at points in the novel and sees this water tower in the distance. And to me, that's a very beautiful and kind of ghostly image that goes with the red sky.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it used to be a house where the water tower is, and now it's
very briefly. That was the first iteration of it. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, that's so cool. And it's so cool that you came up with the title yourself, that you proposed it, everyone loved it, that this was the first cover, you loved it. It sounds like it just everything sort of fell into place and was meant to be.
And what's funny is that it's kind of, we're launching into summer now, and it feels like a summer title too, which I didn't even really think of, but it's just when it's set, you know, so. And the sequel happens to be set in the winter, so it's going to be very icy and different.
Yes, exactly. And Diane says it feels like the start of a series to her. So any potential for that, Katie? Are you thinking down the road at all?
You know, I have a vision for a trilogy because I love the idea of this. I mean, Dark August is grounded a lot in her early childhood. And so in her early life, whereas the middle book is a bit more her growing up and having her own child, her own daughter. And then I see the third book as potentially being her as an older woman and looking back on her life and reflecting on that. I love older female characters, and I have one in Dark August who I absolutely adore. She's probably my favorite character. And there's an elderly woman that she's helping in the second one. And I see her growing old too. I just think it would be a really cool life kind of bookend, so to speak, for a trilogy. But I don't know. I have a hard time letting go of her. She's just, I love Augusta, and that's why I wanted to do a sequel, and maybe she needs to keep going for a few more books. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to age her and let her go.
Hey, you could still work in a few extra books and get some more mileage and give her some more pages.
Her fate is in my hands.
Her fate is in your hands. Ah, that's so intense. Oh my gosh. Well, Katie, it feels like we have been chatting for a nanosecond, but we've been chatting for quite a few minutes actually. So it's time for us to enter the lightning round. Are you ready?
Oh my gosh. Sure.
All right. So I have a feeling I know the answer to this first one. Dog or cat? Dog. Yes, because you were saying that Levi, your dog, makes an appearance, and you don't give him another name. He actually is himself in your book.
He is himself, and Levi unfortunately is no longer.
Oh no, Levi is no longer?
Levi is no longer. This is Levi.
Oh, Levi. Oh, bless him. Oh, he's so cute.
He's a beauty.
I love his sweet face.
He was a beautiful dog, and I just love that he is immortalized in this novel because we miss him so much. And he died at 6. So we didn't have him long enough. And yeah, he was just the best dog. And he lay by my feet while I wrote this novel. So his little quirks, people who knew Levi know that it's him. When they read the book, they're like, my friends are like, that's Levi. He did that. He used to do that. It's his little ways.
Oh my gosh, and I'm so sorry for your loss. That's so heartbreaking. Dogs are the best, and I'm so sorry.
I'm totally ruining the lightning round.
The lightning round is pausing in memoriam for
Levi. Turned into the crying game.
This is the crying lightning round. That's okay. So okay, let's take it back to the mystery realm. So what would you rather take a road trip with Arthur Conan Doyle or Agatha Christie?
Agatha Christie.
Would you rather be and why? Because she's a female writer?
I think so. I think I just want to get into her sensibility, and I think she writes great mysteries, and I don't know, she had a cool life and a road trip. I don't know. Arthur might be kind of boring on a road trip, but I don't really know a lot about him. He's probably great.
Yeah, well, he would probably want to. I think he liked to golf, so that would he'd probably want to pull over at lots of golf courses. He's gonna have to get out at the next stop and go on with Agatha.
Yeah.
Would you rather? What's a word that gives you the heebie-jeebies that you would never use in a novel?
Well, I tend to use the word just all the time. I don't know why. I put it in a sentence and then I go back out and usually take them all out. I don't know what I'm trying to do. It's like very or nice, or it's just an extra word that
It's
I
so interesting.
somehow seeps in. It's but
Seeping in. I like the idea of seepage. That's true. Because we all have those words that do
oh,
just seep in to, Diana's saying she prefers Agatha as well. She would take the road trip with Agatha. Would you rather be stuck in Area 54? And I know you're Canadian, so that's an area in New Mexico,
yeah.
which is known for alien activity. Would you rather be stuck there with H.P. Lovecraft or Stephen King overnight?
Stephen King all the way.
So that you could talk to him about writing, or because he's better at survival, or
so that we could just hang out, you know. I don't think I need to talk to him about anything specific. I just want to hang out with him.
I can
picture cool to go for a nice long walk, you know.
Yeah, around Area 54.
Sure.
There'd be lots to talk about. Yeah. Who's a writer, dead or alive, that you are dying to meet?
I think James Lee Burke. I mentioned him earlier. He's just the coolest looking dude, for one, with the cowboy hat on his books, his author photo. But I love his books. I think he writes these wonderful sort of thriller, mystery, detective stories with they're super dark and super gritty, and yet he can describe a landscape and a sunset with such beauty and poetry that it's like the best of both worlds. And I think he's probably just a really cool dude.
Oh, what a beautiful note to end on. Oh, by the way, we're getting lots of support for your choice of Stephen King. Everyone is seconding your choice of Stephen King. So good job, Katie. I just want to say what a pleasure to talk to you. And I want to remind everyone that we have a very special partnership with bookshop.org, which supports independent bookstores, which desperately need our love and support right now. So through A Mighty Blazes partnership with bookshop.org, you can buy Katie's book and support small bookshops, support independent bookstores, which is the best of both worlds, because I think we all need to read this book right now.
Awesome.
And I know I can't wait. So Katie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming to chat with us on A Mighty Blaze. And I hope that everyone has a great day. We'll be back at 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. with Leah Conan and Catherine St. John. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.